Welcome to the Fast Forward Business Podcast. Today is the 13th of March 2021 and it is a Saturday. I'm going to share with you today a technique that I have found over the last years to be very helpful for me to process my thoughts when a lot of stuff is going on. I originally learned this technique from Maurice Barak. The technique was originally presented to me in the form of what's called a thinking council. Thinking council sounds very strange, as normally thinking is considered to be a process or something that you do on your own, rather than with anyone else or with other people. I'll tell you a little bit about the thinking council and then a hybrid of how to use the thinking council. So imagine an individual sitting in what we might call the hot seat, and then a horseshoe of chairs surrounding the individual, which has people sitting in those chairs. And generally they would be a group of people who one trusts or has a high degree of trust with them. So I do this process with my men's group. We meet every Tuesday and we process things that come up in our lives, and we have various tools and techniques. And one of them that I've introduced has been the Thinking Council. And the intention of the Thinking Council is to convert your thoughts to words. So in other words, you are thinking out aloud. Why does this work so well? It's because I find that if I spend too much time in my head thinking about things that I'm dealing with, I often don't fully complete my thoughts, and also my thinking tends to become what I call short-circuited. In other words, I skip on to other thoughts rather than fully processing one complete subject matter at a time. What happens is when you take your thoughts and convert them into words, there's a certain amount of order that's required so that when the words come out, they make sense, both to the listener and to the talker. So the thinking council is not that you are actually just thinking in front of other people, but you are converting your thoughts into words. Now, there are a few very important rules that go with the thinking council. The first most important rule is that it's highly confidential. And it's confidential to the extent that those who are listening, first of all, may not share the subject matter with anyone. And secondly, may not even ask you questions during or after the session that relate to any of the content, unless you as the thinker choose to engage with someone. So in other words, the thoughts that are converted to words in the thinking council fall to the floor, and that's the end. So what goes with that is that during the thinking council, the purpose of those who are sitting in the horseshoe, their job is to give the thinker their full attention, to be listening with intent, being listening with all of their body to what the thinker has to say. It's important that the thinking council is structured in a way that there is a time limit. And at first, when you try this, you might just set a time limit of 2 minutes, something that feels very short. And you'll notice as you start talking that 2 minutes disappears very quickly, because time disappears once you go inward and extract those thoughts and put them into words. And as you get better and well practiced at the thinking council, you might extend the time to 3, 4, 6 minutes and even up to 10 minutes. So the thinking council is such that there's an individual and several people forming the horseshoe. This also works very well in the form of thinking pairs. So just knee to knee with a colleague who you can trust, with the confidentiality for that person to give you their full attention and listen to you while you convert your thinking into words. So let me give you some experience of how helpful this has been, certainly with my crew on a Tuesday night. When I say my crew on a Tuesday night, I mean my men's group. So recently, the men were in a space where there was a lot going on in terms of their personal lives, as there is for everyone. And everyone wanted to process some work And my suggestion was, let's break up into thinking pairs and let's have 4 minutes each way and just verbalize your thoughts, convert your thoughts into words. We went off, we did our session, we came back, and as we sat in circle, I asked the men, is there any feedback from your session? And noticeably 2 men said, well, you know what, I've found that I feel so much less anxiety in me at the moment, because the process of fully thinking through some of the things that I'm facing helped me get clarity on how I feel about certain things and what actions I need to take in order to progress this matter, whatever it may be. And they weren't able to get to that same place of lowering their anxiety and working out their actions without going through the full thinking counsel process. So I'm eternally grateful to Maurice Barak for introducing this to me. It is something I use regularly and has helped me a great deal to process difficult things that are going on for me. And I encourage you to give it a go and give me some feedback. We'll call that a day for the Fast Forward Business Podcast. We'll see you on the Far Post.